Mistake number one is not practicing financially arranged dentistry. Not practicing financially arranged dentistry. This is like the fundamental rule to collect everything you produce. You always want to practice financially arranged dentistry. And that simply means that the patient understands the fees, and specific arrangements are made for payment before any treatment begins. Naren, what's the key word in that definition? What's the key operative word?
Before treatment begins.
Before.
Yes.
Before. If you do the dentistry and then we talk about money, you run the opportunity of an upset, because if the patient has insurance, you realize, Naren, the patient knows nothing about their dental insurance. The patient knows except one thing: it pays everything.
Right.
Now that's a joke because it doesn't pay everything. But what do they think about their insurance? It pays everything.
It pays everything. I mean, like you said, it pays very, very little.
Pays a little, but they think, or they want to think, that it pays everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about money after, then we're committing a mistake. Now, I'll give you a different way to think about this. Naren, imagine that your car is acting up. Your car is acting up. It's making some noises, and it's not, you're getting down the road, but you know something's wrong with your car. So you take it to a garage,
Right.
take it to a mechanic. And you drop your, it's making some noise. You describe what's going on. And maybe the service writer at the garage says, well, we'll take a look at it. I might be able to get in today. I might not, but I'll likely have it ready for you by tomorrow afternoon. And then you go tomorrow afternoon to pick it up. And the service writer says, well, Naren, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is your car's done. It's ready to go, running like a top. Bad news is your transmission needed to be rebuilt. And we tried to troubleshoot it and do some fixes, but none of that worked. So it needed to be rebuilt. So we went ahead and rebuilt it. And your bill is $7,000, and you can take care of that by cash, check, or credit card. How would you feel about that?
I wouldn't.
You're not very happy.
Yeah, I'm not very happy.
In fact, the listeners can't see this, but Naren and I are on Zoom together, and Naren has a look of shock in his face. He's looking like, what? What happened? Well, that's what happens to your patient. Now, imagine it goes this way instead, Naren. Imagine it goes like this. You take your car into the garage. The service writer says, well, what we'll do is we'll do some diagnostics. Once we figure out what's going on, I'll reach out to you by phone, and I'll let you know what's going on and let you know what the, what it would cost to repair that. And imagine later in the day, they call you and say, Naren, I've got bad news. We ran the diagnostics on your car, and we need to rebuild the transmission. The kind of problems that are going on, we can't fix with some easier fixes. It has to be rebuilt. And unfortunately, the charge to rebuild your transmission is going to be $7,000. Before we start the work, I wanted to get authorization from you. And I want to share the information with you and get an authorization before we start. Now, you're not going to like the news.
Right.
But you're going to appreciate the way it's handled, correct?
100%. At least there won't be any dispute. There won't be any negative Google reviews.
Yeah,
for sure.
You told me. Yeah. Well, the same thing happens. That's what I'm asking you to do in dentistry. Now, in dentistry, as far as new patients are concerned, I'm going to suggest at least the caliber of our listeners on the Thriving Dentist Show. You probably don't have a problem with this with new patients. You probably have a good system for it.
Yes.
But where you can get sideways is with emergency patients. So the emergency patient came in, has a toothache. You worked them into the schedule. It's a busy day. And let's say we have an opportunity to provide some care rather than just do palliative care. And let's say we have an opportunity to do a root canal with the patient. And in your haste, doctor, to stay on time, to keep things moving, you dive in there and do a root canal. And then when the patient leaves, as they check out, your financial coordinator now has to tell them how much they owe for the root canal. What's wrong? That's like the first example of taking your car to a mechanic. You find out when you pick it up. And the way you can avoid this is, for an emergency patient, bring your financial coordinator. Once you have your diagnostics done and once you know what the treatment recommendation is, say to the patient, Naren, before I do this treatment, I'm going to bring Meg. She's our financial coordinator. I'm going to bring her into the room. And I want Meg to cover the finances with you so there's no surprises. And now Meg comes in the room. You don't take the bib off. You don't move the patient in the consult room. You just do this right there chairside. You bring Meg in, and Meg says, I understand doctors recommended a root canal, and I wanted to cover the finances with you today so there's no surprises. And they go over with you before you start. And that's how we solve that. Who's the culprit here most of the time, Naren? Who's the guilty party here?
The guilty party, of course, you mean like the way we did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guilty party is the dentist.
Right.
The guilty party is the dentist in a haste to stay on time.
Yeah.
Is forgot to do financial arranged dentistry. And
Yeah.
those
So
are
I mean,
the
that's why I was
ones that blow
hesitating.
up
I
on
mean,
you.
he's not the guilty party, just that.
Well, he's guilty
because
if he or she does the dentistry and then covers finances.
yes.
You're guilty of violating the financially arranged dentistry policy.
Got it. Got it.
And doctor, I'm going to come to your defense. You're very noble to try to stay on time,
Yeah.
but if you haven't covered the finances, that can be a difficult outcome with the patient.
Yeah. Because now the patient is no longer in pain, and they're like, "Oh man, you didn't tell me it's going to cost me X."
Yeah, it should have been a happy event now that they're out of pain, but it turns
Yes.
out to be a negative event because they didn't know they were going to owe this.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Just like you didn't like the news at the garage when they said,
Yeah.
well, the only option is to rebuild it. You don't like the news,
Yes.
but you do appreciate the courtesy in which it was handled. You're not surprised.
Because it's my decision, right? Like I could,
Right.
I mean, I could say, well, I could have stayed in pain. Why didn't you tell me?
Right. Right. Which typically people don't want to do.
Yeah, they
But,
won't do it, but they will use that defense when like
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have had it done if I'd have known that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's after the fact. That's after they're comfortable.
Exactly.
When they're in pain, it's like,
Anything.
here's my credit card. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
All right. I won't belabor it any further, but doctor, try to avoid that accidental trap that you get into, and just always practice financially arranged dentistry. It's a key.